Once again, let us welcome our guest for tonight, Datuk Shafie Shamsuddin. Datuk Shafie currently serves as the President Director and CEO of PT Trans Retail Indonesia, a position he assumed in January 2024 this year. But this isn't the first time he has held this role, because he was in this role from 2013 to 2019. And he is also currently the chairman of Siti Khadijah Group, a leading Islamic fashion and lifestyle brand. Let us also welcome Mr. Tan Kiat Hao, Senior Minister of State for National Development and Digital Development and Information. He is also REACH Chairman. Let us also give a warm welcome to Ms. Nurhaiza Hashim, Audience and Growth Editor of Berita Harian. All right. Thank you, Datuk Shafie, for joining us tonight. I'm very excited to talk about tonight's topic, which is growing and learning from setbacks. I also understand that you just flown in yesterday night. How do you feel?
Very well, thank you very much.
Are you excited for tonight's session?
Very much so.
Okay, among the young audience, eh?
Thank you.
Okay. As a leader, you have achieved tremendous success, but after speaking with you personally, I have come to realize that many may not know the full story, that actually behind your achievements lies a trail of challenges that you trudged, oftentimes alone, and therefore no one is more qualified to talk about tonight's topic other than you. Now, for tonight's Fireside Chat, I understand that Datuk Shafie actually has a request that he would like to ask from the audience. A bit special tonight, okay? So, Datuk Shafie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, Mr. Tan, thank you very much for being present today. Ms. Nurhaiza, thank you very much. And obviously, high potential leaders, thank you for taking your time. I just have one point that I wanted to raise before, and thank you very much for allowing me to speak. You see, we have only 1 or maximum 2 hours together. I always reminded myself that when we have this kind of engagement, let's maximize it. So I have 3 questions that I want to pose to you. You don't have to answer now. Just think about it. And I'm going to ask for volunteers at the later period of time when we are more engaged. Number 1, please ponder and ask, what are our best achievements that we have actually achieved in the entire life that we are today? What is it? Describe to ourselves, what are the achievements? How did we achieve that successes? That's number 1. Number 2, what are our current concerns? What are our current pain points today, at this moment? What are we thinking about? We are here, our physical is here, but where are our mind? What are our concerns? Money? Jobs? Education? What is it? What are our concerns? And number 3, what is our ambition? What do we want to be? How do we want to achieve what we want in life? What are those things? So very simple 3 points. Just to summarize, describe our past achievements, our present challenges, and 3, our future. What do we want to be, right? So I'm going to ask for volunteers later on, if you don't mind.
Yes, I don't mind.
I hope that you will come and join me, because it's just like a kind of getting to know you better. With these 3 questions, we can get ourselves engaged. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Datuk Shafie. As you all ponder on those questions, which I guess we will touch on during the Q&A session, I think we can start the Fireside Chat. Shall we?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so to truly appreciate the success that you have achieved today, I think it's essential that we start from the beginning, right? After speaking with you, I realized that actually you have come a very long way given your upbringing. Many would be surprised to learn that you actually come you lived in a small HDB flat in Queenstown with your parents, your siblings and your grandparents. You also mentioned that your family was not well-to-do, and at a young age you had to learn how to earn your own expenses, and so you worked as a stall assistant, delivery boy, cleaner and dishwasher. which I think is very inspiring. And you, just like many of us, come from neighborhood schools. You came from Queenstown Secondary School, Queensway Secondary School, and Jurong Junior College. So I think my first question would be, before you became the Datuk Shafie that we know today, how were you like as a young boy and student? You're very successful now. Would you say that you were a high-performing student?
Well, academically, definitely not, right? But I wanted to make sure that this is clear between us, right? I have 2 failures academically. And at that time, there was no modular. So you had to retain and you have to repeat the whole year. So that was in my college, Jurong Junior College. Instead of 2 years, I had to do 3 years. So there's no hiding that I did not do well, and therefore I had to repeat. That's number 1. Number 2, NTU. So I was in the business course. I had to do 3 years, but I failed the first year because of one subject called statistics. So there were nine subjects. I failed 1, that is statistics. So I had to retake every one of them, 9 subjects again. And guess what? The next following year, I got A for that, right? Statistics. So what does that mean? Numbers, 2, very important. I failed twice. Number 2. Next, 1,800 plus 10. Later you will ask me what that numbers means. But these numbers are important in my life, and I learned through it. So if you ask me, how was I during my childhood, or even my studying days? I put myself as an introvert. But this introversy actually learned me a lot. The introversies learned me a lot. Why? We learn to have conversation with ourselves. Because as an introvert person, I just feel that I'm not good enough for everyone. But I learned that every one of us, every single one of us, we are here with a purpose. So we need to create our own purpose. We need to learn to acknowledge who we are. And most of us are looking for special idols somewhere else. But most of us, I believe that we have already achieved lots and lots of successes. But it's just that we don't know how to frame it. So I'm sure all of you have done very well in whatever that you have been doing. And that's the reason why I've asked you, what are your achievements? But the point is, how do we then frame it in order for us to use it again and again and again? Because most of the time when we have that success, we do not reflect on those successes. I mean, the topic of today is growing and learning from setbacks. But don't be wrong. Even successes, we should learn from. It's not just about setbacks. And the danger would be when we are successful, we don't know how we achieve it. That is even riskier. So I come back again to answer to your point. As a childhood, introversies became something powerful to me because I learned that every one of us, when we acknowledge ourselves, we can be who we want to be. And the numbers again, I go on to the numbers immediately, or you want to ask another question first?
I can ask another question first.
Go ahead.
Okay, still sticking to your childhood and younger days, right? I wanted to ask, how aware were you of your circumstances at the time? You said that you were not in a financially well-to-do family. How well aware were you? And if so, did you have a strong hunger for success because of it?
Yeah. So actually, I was a Pizza Hut delivery boy, right? Riding for 5 years. The first time when I got my motorbike license, the only reason was at that time to be able to get extra pocket money. That's very tough. And that actually is something that giving me the motivation and drive, not only paying for myself, but I have to start thinking about my other siblings as well. So obviously, we know at that time that I can't be counting on safety net. I think this is something that I learned, that when we have safety nets, we tend to rely on those safety nets and say, I'm sure somebody else is going to help me. But I think we need to start to drive and believe in ourselves more. And that was the reason why when I had a chance to open up a small business at that time, even though I was still studying, I was on my first year in NTU, and I actually opened up a small coffee shop called the SF Spring Chicken that I sold in Jurong East at that time. So I was studying in NTU, and every night, so I will come to the shop at about 6 p.m. and will sell chicken, spring chicken, to about 11 in the evening, and then do the cleaning, and then go back to the hostel in NTU, do my studies, and that's why I failed my first year, as you can imagine, right? But I learned from it, right? And I said, how do I do better? So if you ask me today, reflecting on that, I have no regrets at all. These 2 years of my setbacks, as I've said, actually brought me even a stronger drive. And I said to myself that now I'm already 2 years behind, comparing to the boys at that time. But comparing to the girls, I'm 4.5 years behind with national service at that time, 2.5 years. So by the time I graduated, I said, what am I going to do? I don't have enough. I have to make sure that I can bring myself up, but as well as my family. So if you ask me, definitely my bigger purpose was really to bring betterment to my family, which was at that time my parents, and my parents were unwell at that age. My father had a 3 heart bypass. My mom was a stroke patient. I have 2 other siblings younger than me. I have 2 grandparents at that time. So how do I balance that and drive myself? So that was my so-called bigger purpose. Before the numbers.
Yes, before the numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, we can see that your drive and perseverance at that early age actually is a foreshadowing of how successful you will be in the future. So I think we can move on to your early career. So you finally managed to pull yourself through NTU and you graduated with a Bachelor of Business and you started your career from ground zero. You were a management trainee at Carrefour, a French hypermarket that operated in Singapore previously. And within 9 years, you worked your way up and you became CEO. But 3 years before you became CEO, you were told by the CEO at the time, who was French, that you will never become CEO because the company, which is a French organization, only promoted French staff to the highest posts. And yet, 3 years after that conversation, you did in fact become CEO. And another thing is that instead of feeling demoralized, you were inspired to want to change things. So I think before we delve into you being CEO, my first question is how? How did you climb up the corporate ladder within just 9 years? And then how did you make the impossible possible? Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. So when I graduated, I asked myself what kind of job I want to do. I was proposed, there were 2 companies that have offered me the job. Both are French companies. One was the finance and insurance company, and the other one was Carrefour. So the finance insurance company was offering me a 5-day job, and the salary is $2,000 Singapore dollars a month at that time. I don't know how much is it now, but when you graduated, it's $2,000 at that time. And the way the work is being asked is to fly across ASEAN. So I was supposed to go to Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Indonesia. So kind of feeling good, right? I mean, you graduated and the job is to fly all over doing kind of finance and audit. But I asked the question to them. I said, I need money, right? Because like I said, right, I need to take care of my family. So how soon do you think I can be promoted? What are the criteria to be promoted? Guess what they said? They said it's based on seniority. That was, when was that? That was 1996. Based on seniority. Would you accept if someone today tell you that you can only be promoted because of seniority? Even then, I could not accept it, right? So I went to another interview that was Carrefour. So what is Carrefour? At that time, Carrefour was the second largest retailer in the world. At that time, it was just behind Walmart. There wasn't Amazon yet. I mean, there was, but was not visible. There was no Alibaba, etc., etc. So we were number 2. So it was one of the largest, right? So we had more than 550,000 employees worldwide at that time. So I asked them, how much is my salary now? This is where 1,800. What is the working hours? 7 days a week. 7 days a week? Yes, 7 days a week. How am I going to get promoted? Based on your performance. Wow, I said, okay, this is interesting, right? So I said to myself, if I take this job, which is from ground zero as a management trainee, so you do things like cleaning the shelving, replenishing, buying, and so on and so forth. So I said to myself, in 10 years, can I put another zero? 1,800 now, can I put another zero? That was my goal at that time. So I said, let's do it. I will take this job and I will put another zero within 10 years. Now the question is, do you think I achieve it? You think so? Let's see. Now, I move on. I chose a job that it was paid $200 lesser, 7 days working, a lot of uncertainties, right? I didn't know at that time that they are not going to promote a non-French at that time, right? So I grew. As what was mentioned, almost every year I got promoted. Almost every year. In certain period, I even got promoted twice within a year. Now, in about 2003, I was headhunted by a company called Tesco. Have you heard of Tesco? Yeah. So Tesco at that time was the number 3 largest retailer in the world. So Tesco spotted me. So in the year 2003, I was 33 years old. So they spotted me and said, Shafie, we want you to be in our program called the Fast Track CEO program with Tesco. And I said, okay, let's discuss. So the deal was very good. I was asked to be based in UK for 2 years to learn how to be a CEO. And I will be able to bring my family along with me as an expatriate. And after 2 years, they will ask me to do another 2 years of a role called the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. And after which, if I perform, they said maybe in the 5th year, because 2 plus 2 plus another 1, the 5th year, you may be able to be the CEO of Tesco. Now, I got that. Very good salary increment. Remember, 1,800 plus another 0. That means it's how much? 18,000. So I go back to my wife and said, wife, what do you think? Should we go? She said, I follow whatever you want, right? So the next day, I went to see my then CEO. His name was Luke Dayo. So I said, Mr. Dayo, do you think I can be a CEO? And he said, Shafie, you are very good. You have performed very well. But do you want me to tell the truth or do you want me to make you happy? So I said, tell me the truth. And he said, we have never promoted any non-French. So if you want the truth, I don't think you will be a CEO. Now, hearing that, I went back home. What should I do? What would you do? Would you leave and move to Tesco? Would you? Yes? Of course, right? So I came back. The next day, I met Mr. Dayo and I said to him, Mr. Dayo, I want to say thank you to you. Are you leaving? No. I want to thank you because you have the courage to tell me the truth. I see that this is the culture, the openness of a leadership that is able to tell the truth even if you would have risked me leaving. So I said to him, I'm going to stay, but I'm going to prove not to you. I'm going to prove it to myself that I would be able to be the CEO. Now, to be honest, at that time, I don't know how to be the CEO. Because I said, I want to be a CEO, very fiery, but I don't know how, right? So I said to myself, I was 33, I have actually turned down the role of the fast track to be a CEO. I chose to be with Carrefour and telling myself that while it is uncertain, I believe that I'm capable of being a CEO through this line. Now, in 2005, I got promoted. Not as a CEO, but was a role that was responsible for Carrefour in Singapore. At that time, we had 2 stores. One in Suntec City. Some of you were not born, maybe. And another one was Plaza Singapura, right? The 2 stores. So I was asked to take over these 2 stores running. And I was the first Singaporean at that time to take this role. So I had this chance to say, oh, this is a very important role and I want to give something. I believe that I will get a good promotion and I got a good salary increment. I remember 2005, it was about March, April 2005. And during this time, I said, let's see how much I will get. So I asked my wife, I said, you know, we have been married since 1997. I've never get to give anything to her, not even a ring, because I was poor. And I said to her, would you accept a gift from me now that I'm promoted? She asked me, how much is your salary increased? I said, I don't know yet, but I'm sure it will be good because it's the first role that I was given as a Singaporean. So she said, why don't we buy a car? Because we don't have a car at that time. You know how much is Singapore's car, right? So I said, okay, I'll buy a car. So I bought for her a car. When I brought her the car, I got scolded. What did she say? Why did you buy me a car? I said, that's what you asked. She said, have you bought the car for your parents? So I said, no. So you better give to your parents before you give it to me. So I said, but you wanted the car. So I said, how am I going to make her happy? But at the same time, she's asking me to give it to my parents. So I decided, I said, what can go wrong? I got promoted. I don't know my salary, but I'm sure because I don't buy it for myself. So I said, let's buy for my parents as well. So not 1, 2 cars within the same year. So I said, sure, I will get good salary increment because my intention was good. I believe so, right? So it was May, June, we got the 2 cars. Installment, very, 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 very high, right? So in June, no salary increment. Remember, which year was that? 2005. We have to pay attention on the numbers, you know, because it's very important. 2005, June, no salary increment. July, no salary increment. Very anxious. Up to October, then I got the salary increment. Do you think I was happy? I was very sad because they gave me only 10% increment. I said, what is 10% increment? This is a normal increment, right? So I said, what happened? So it took me October, November, and December, asking myself what went wrong. I worked hard. I did not buy something for myself. I want to make my wife happy. I make even my parents happy, but I make myself unhappy because I have to bear the cost, but I don't know how. So it took me 2 months to realize I have to accept it. It was tough. I said I have to learn to accept it. I have to learn to be grateful and accept it, right? So that was end of December 2005, right? 2005. So remember, December 2005, I started to acknowledge. I got my promotion April 2005. Now, January 21st, 2006, the CEO of Carrefour Malaysia and Singapore, which was a French guy, at the age of 44, he passed away due to heart attack. 44 years old. On one night, he passed away. I got the news the next day. I cried because I don't understand why. He passed away. And then suddenly there was an opportunity. I didn't know that. I never thought that it was me, right? But then there was a story, rumors came and said, maybe we need to now do some tests. So Carrefour in France decided to engage Russell Renault, which is an international headhunting executive search firm, to do assessment on all the top leaders. There were top 500 leaders across worldwide, and they said, let's do an assessment. I was one of them, and I was given one of the top 3 ranking at that time, alhamdulillah. Now, when I was given that, I don't even understand what it means. That was 21st January 2006. On the 14th February 2006, 14th February is what day? Valentine's Day. I was called by the CEO, chairman of Carrefour. He flew from France to ask me to meet him in Kuala Lumpur. I still remember on the 14th of February, he arrived in the hotel at 10 in the evening, and he asked me to have supper with him. And he said, Shafie, are you ready to be the CEO for Carrefour, Singapore, and Malaysia? So I looked at him. I said, do you know how old I am? He said, I don't care. Do you know that I just got promoted last year? It's not even a year. I don't care. Are you sure? Yes. So I said, if you are sure, I will take the challenge. Now, what happened? 1,800 plus 10. Do you think I got that? It was a delay. I expected to get something big in October last year, right? I did not get it. But how much do you think I got it at that time on 14 February 2006? Do you think I got 1,800 plus 10? Do you think so? Of course not. I got a lot more than that. Now, what are the learnings? What are the learnings? See, we build numbers. We have goals, right? We build goals, right? So we want to achieve short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. Numbers are very, very important. But numbers alone is beyond what we can imagine. If we believe in the abundance of mind, if we believe on bigger purpose, you would not be able to imagine what you will get. So what I've actually gotten at that time was a lot more than what I thought that I deserved just 6 months ago. So it's just a matter of a few months. It taught me a lesson, right? That we must always believe what we have today is to be grateful. First of all, painful, yes, but face the brutal facts of things that we are not happy with. Go into the details of it. What has happened? What are the gaps that we need to work on? Don't avoid it. And always have the readiness to give more. See, I was questioned by Sab. Where's Sab?
Sab, where are you?
Sab, you're gone.
Okay, it's all right.
Sab, okay. Sab asked me the questions, and one of the things I answered is that let's learn to give more than we take. Now, this is very simple. Learn to give more than we take. But it's a principle that if we build in us, that will create that abundance mind. We don't just create goals only for us. I mean, we've asked ourselves, we want to increase our salary will never be enough. Or we are running business, we want to make more profits will never be enough. But the question we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of our life? We work very hard. What is the purpose? If we don't have a bigger purpose, we are definitely going to be exhausted. So that's what I believe in terms of how the numbers are important, but numbers are just numbers. We need to create an abundance of mind with a bigger purpose.
Very inspiring. Thank you so much, Dato' Shafie. I think it's quite remarkable that even though you were not CEO, you pretended, and that's important.
No. So that is very important, right? Because you see, I always believe that don't wait for you to be given something before you are acting on it. So if you want to be, I don't know what you want to be, you have already to act on it. That's where the introvertness of us, we have to learn to have conversation with ourselves. Conversation with ourselves is the most important. If we don't have enough conversation with ourselves, how are we going to have conversations with others? Do you think others will listen to you? You're not even talking to yourself. So that's, for me, it's very important for us to play a role and to have that conversations with us first.
All right, so now let's talk about becoming CEO, right? And actually, you went through a lot of challenges. For example, when you became CEO of Carrefour at just 35 years old, you were very young. Your employees at the time were very skeptical about your ability to lead. They even doubted you. Another challenge is 4 years later, after becoming CEO of Carrefour Singapore and Malaysia, you became CEO of Carrefour Indonesia. And you also went through a lot of challenges like legal challenges, being accused of practicing monopolistic practices and dealing with a notorious group. So you went through a lot when you became CEO. Maybe we can start off with when you first became CEO and your employees were doubting you. What was your emotional state like at the time?
Terrible, right? That was one of my terrible moments in life. So I took the challenge. The moment I said, I'll take the challenge. The next day, like everything was coming down to me, right? I started to feel nausea. Every day going to work. I was happy. 35 years old, there was a driver driving me, Since 35, there was a driver driving me all over the place. But behind, I was feeling nausea. Every day going to work, I had to ask him to stop and I had to vomit. Why? Because I felt uncomfortable. I was asking myself, am I ready to be the CEO? And I heard a lot of murmuring everywhere around that they think that I'm not going to last, right? So I decided to gather the top 100 of the leaders in Carrefour, Malaysia and Singapore at the time. And I said to them, look, I know that I'm too young. I was 35, but I can't be older, even if you want me to. I'm not French. I can't be French. I'm not an experienced CEO. I can't be when this is my first role as a CEO. Well, one thing I told them I can do and I can give you. What do you think I tell them? I can give you, apa dia? I give you my heart. That's all I have. Why? I said, I'm going to fight and give you my passion, my heart, my wholeheartedness. I'm going to give you everything I have. Give me 6 months to a year, maximum a year, I said to them. If in the event, in 1 year, if you think I'm not performing, I will resign. But at this moment, please don't decide. Now is the time for you to sit on the fence. I said, never mind. Don't say that you are with me or neither. Just sit on the fence for 6 months to a year. If it is not good enough, I will leave. At this moment, let's work together until then. Now, at that time, my French colleague decided to leave me. My COO, my CFO, my marketing director, my merchandising director, they are all French. 4 of them decided to leave. So, a young boy, 35, I can't speak French. I went to my first meeting in Asia with all the experienced CEO, right? There were 10 of us. I remember went to the first one in Hong Kong. The first meeting we sat, one of my French colleagues, of course they are all senior than me, they're all almost 40s, late 40s and 50s. He asked to the big boss, in French of course, right? What kind of language should we speak now because Shafie is here now? And guess what he said? Of course it's French. Let him suffer, right? At that time, do we have Google? Do we have ChatGPT? No. What do? Every night after the meeting, I have to go and look for dictionary. Tak faham, cannot understand. So, must learn. Very, very tough. Suffering, right? So, can you imagine? Everything was going like super fast speed. Everybody wants to see me fail. Everybody knows that I'm not competent enough. But Alhamdulillah, one step at a time. Like I said, never give up. Every habit. So I change, tell myself. So why I felt nausea? Because I did not write all the feedbacks and comments that I received, I kept it in my mind. So I started to write down. Everything, I write it down. So before I go back home, I make sure those points, what are those things that I need to do, I will put it aside. In the night, there are 4 things that I did. This is what I learned. I'm sharing with you. Every night before I slept, at that time, number 1, I said, whoever has actually made mistakes on me or angered me, right? I must learn to forgive them. I said, because there were so many people saying bad things about me. So I said, I learned to forgive them. Number 1. Number 2, if I made mistakes before I go to sleep, last time know what's up. Huh? You must say sorry. So I said sorry even though in myself to whoever the person. I practice myself to say sorry. The next day, if I meet them, I'm going to tell them, I have asked forgiveness to you for what I have done. Number 3, if ever I have done something good to people, delete that in our memory. We help people sometimes, right? We keep it. No, don't keep it. Delete it in our memory. And of course, if somebody helped us, never forget. Because there were people who were helping me at that time. There were many people who were waiting for me to fail, but there was also people who were helping me and supporting me. So I must demonstrate my appreciation to them. 4 things that I did start my practice. Until today, I'm still practicing that. That actually gave me very peaceful night sleep. It's like what? When we sleep in the night, we charge our handphone, right? We charge our handphone. How do we charge our handphone? That's how we should charge. At least this is how I do. I charge myself, recharge myself at night. Because that will calm our heart and say, whatever people have done wrong to us, we forgive them. Learn to forgive. The more they do bad things, we said, we forgive them. Because the night we sleep, the next day, we get stronger. That's where the energy comes. Many people ask me, Pa, why you have so much energy? I said, one thing, because the purpose is not for you. If we fight, if we work hard, and the only reason is for money, or for profit, or for yourself, trust me, you will get sick and tired of yourself. But if we build our own bigger purpose, the energy will flow back again and again and again. And it's only coming back bigger and stronger and more positive. But we have to practice. I said to them today, I said it's not just about these stories. Most important is how to build it, how to nurture ourselves to get those kind of ability to build resilience within us. So that's how one of those things that I've done. Thank you.
Okay, so before we move...
for me?
Yes, it's for you. You can drink. Okay, before we move on to the Q&A segment, I think I will ask my final question, which is, as your career progressed, it became clear that not only must you solve problems, you must lead transformation amidst those problems. So one example is when you were Chief Strategic Officer at Aeon, you saw that the company was lagging in terms of the e-commerce market and boom. But not only that, you decided that actually the company needed an entire restructuring of its ecosystem. In fact, the company was facing 7 years of losses. Yet, under your leadership, you brought it back to profitability in 2020. So, you saw the slow adaptation as a setback, and yet you were not deterred by it. You were also not deterred by the financial losses at the time, and you managed to turn around the entire organization. So, I think with our young audience tonight, and we can conclude with this question, how do you keep yourself focused and resilient when a lot of things are going on, the stakes are high, and a lot is riding on your decisions?
I think this is something that is beyond us, right? We always believe that we can do it on our own. And I think that is really, really wrong. We need to really learn to balance the people around us. One of those things that I believe is building the leadership among our team so that we can share the load. The responsibilities are not only for us. We need to be able to have the bigger heart to learn what I always said. Just now I was telling you, learn to give more, right? Now is learn to love. Learn to love is not easy, you know. Because when we want to love, we expect people to love us. We do something, we expect people to love us. Yeah? Lagi-lagi many social media now. We expect people to give us thumbs up, right? But we have to learn to love without asking that. When you do that, then you have a clear mind. You know that you are making decisions, and this is something that I always tell myself, we need to learn to make decisions balanced. How is the balance? Is to put the head, the heart, and the hands. The 3H. See, most of the time, when we do things, if we are in the head office, for those of you who are working in the head office, we make decisions based on analytics. Those on the operations, we work using our hands. But who is using our heart? Don't know. Nobody uses our heart. But most of the time, if we start with the heart, most of the time, the heart is telling you the truth. So if we learn how to use the heart, making decision balance, right? Head, the hands, and the heart, that will actually brings a lot more positiveness in us. We share the responsibilities with the people that we love. So when I run the companies, the transformations, I like to treat everyone as family, not as a CEO to a subordinate. I like to build that familyness between the whole organization. And that means it's not just talking with hundreds of people or thousands of people, but it's about connecting even on a one-to-one basis. Sometimes leaders, they are talking only on big crowd and audience, but on one-on-one, no engagement. But this is the truth. Learning to love that I mentioned just now, the real truth is when you are one-on-one, whether you are going to share, whether you're going to give that focus and energy when someone came to you, even if it's only one, would you give the attention that is needed? Now, if we learn to do that, whatever, we may not have all the answers, but I believe that brings togetherness, and that means there will be always solutions to whatever. I mean, there's so many stories. I mean, they have heard some of the stories. Even in Aeon, one of the things I've said is that I was not headhunted by Aeon. I went to Tokyo and asked for the job. I said, I want this job. I want this one. I said, so why do you want this one? Because this is challenging. It's difficult, I know, but this is challenging, right? Yeah, but the rest, next time I can share with you more. But those things are believing and putting yourself because you believe on the bigger purpose, not only for yourself, right? So I think that's what I hope to build together with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Datuk Shafie. Thank you so much for the incredible and honest conversation that we have had today. Because we are short of time, I want to give more time for the Q&A session. And so I think we can go ahead with the Q&A segment. Raise your hands and my colleagues will come to you with the microphone. Can we have our first question at the back?
Hi, I'm here again. Hello, Mr. Shafie. My name is Aino. I work in tech, and the team that I'm working in, I also work a bit with the US team, which also has people from like Romania, basically other countries. So my question is, especially being, sorry, I'm referring to my notes, being the first Asian CEO of Carrefour, was your approach to working with a global team or leading a global team different from, say, your Western predecessors? And what advice would you give to youths who work in a more, I guess, international space now, like tech, for example?
Thank you very much. Well, at the global level, I was very fortunate. I was exposed. I live in France and I was doing a lot of traveling. Went to Argentina, Brazil, Colombia and learned the culture. Everyone has his own differences, right? But there are all strengths. So when we look at, if you give an example of those countries, kind of feeling that sometimes on the surface, they may look more dominant sometimes, right? But the truth is, the real truth is not necessary. I mean, sometimes they are dominant and it's good, and we can learn a lot from them. But we need to acknowledge that we have a lot more strengths that we don't even acknowledge. Like, for example, I said earlier, right? The balance between the head, the heart, and the hands. Europeans or the Westerns, right? They come here to learn how we make decisions based on our heart. And we should learn how they make decisions using the head. Processes, frameworks. We have to learn how it's being done. Conceptuals, they are strong in that. But making decisions alone on frameworks will not be sufficient. You need to execute strategies using the head, yes, analytics, but you need to use the hands and most importantly, the heart. So if you ask me, how do we work international? We have to learn and have the courage to use our heart more. And most of the time, like I said, that's the truth. I'll give you an example. It's a real example, very quick example. One day, a real example, we were about to open one new store in Indonesia. And the store manager that was supposed to open the next day at about 10 p.m. in the night, tomorrow we want to open the new store. Her son, 4-year-old, passed away. Right? Passed away. She cried and everything. Now, in Indonesia, you need to travel sometime because her son is living about 3-4 hours. You have to travel, right? Now, she has decided to go back, of course, right? Now, I asked myself that question. I said, what should I do as a CEO? Should I open the store tomorrow? Should I be present here to open the store? I should go to the funeral. Now, what is the first thing come to your heart? Go to the funeral or not? If your heart say, go to the funeral, that is your heart saying. But now, what happened? I said, 4 hours to travel at night. What time I'm going to come back? What time I'm going to be there? I'm going to have enough sleep or not? But I have to open the store. The store cannot wait, must open. Who will be opening that store? Who will represent me? So, what are those talking? Who's talking? The head. Rationalizing it and saying, are you sure or not? Who's going to make sure that the sales are going to be there? You need to open the store in time because everybody's expecting that. Now, the truth is, your heart already say, do it. But we're going to make all the reasons to say, we will not do it. I asked one of my CEO office team, younger team that works with me. I said to him, hey, have you called her, the store manager, to give condolences to her? What did he say? Yeah, I'm going to do. But I've not done it yet. Say, why did you not do? Because she may not know me. She may not know me. That's why I don't call her for the condolence. So look again. The heart said that we have to send the condolence. But he said that I wouldn't want to disturb her. Again, rationalizing it, right? So what I'm trying to say here is, a lot of times our heart is telling the truth. When we say that we want to do, we're going to go through a lot of pain. And we will tell ourselves, don't do. But if we do it, you will see the satisfaction, the love. And guess what? I went there. I went for 4 hours drive. And I managed to arrive back on time for the opening. Of course, very exhausted. But exhaustion with a lot of meaning. That is worthwhile. Right? You send that love back to her in the family. Until today, she's still working with me in Indonesia. Until today. Her name is Tina. Right? But you see, those things that actually taught us more than just profit, loss, sales, people, human, that teach us better things. So don't be afraid of ourselves to use our heart, right? We are in technology world, AI, right? But don't worry, AI cannot do alone, right? Still people. If you ask me, what is the future of companies? How differentiated we want to be? People. The 70s and 80s, what did we see in 80s? The Japanese came out with robotics. That means efficiency using robotics, using the hands, right? Factories, productivity was better using hands, better hands. Now, we are using AI, better analytics. We're going to wait, who's going to do the heart? Who's going to produce that heart? You, me. We make that difference. Whatever robotics we're going to see in the future, come back again. We want to differentiate ourselves, be unique. In fact, I told myself, when I was in France, I'm unique. Yeah, I was a minority. I was telling myself, when I was in Singapore, as a management trainee, I said, being a management trainee in Carrefour, Singapore, the smallest country that Carrefour was present in the whole world, how in the world would they notice me that if I perform? So I decided because I'm unique. Not because I'm bigger, but because I'm unique. Believing in that, and because of the heart that we believe in ourselves. So never let yourself be giving to others without them telling to yourself, I have what it takes, our heart. Learn to use it more. But you have to practice it, right? It's not just tomorrow you said, I'm going to use it. So sometimes you will make mistakes as well. So we have to learn how to use it and practice it.
So our hearts are our strengths, actually, yeah?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, can we have the second question? Oh yeah, over there.
When you were in the CEO's meeting all the way and you know that there were people that might not like you, how do you still, and after you do your forgiveness every day, how do you still interact with them after that? Do you pretend, oh, it's all smiley, nothing is happening, pretend nothing's happening, or do you suddenly be extra nice to them because you want to win them over? Or what do you do? Do you change in your interaction with them?
Thank you very much, Alan. Now, I like to give this very simple story, right? You see, when we were young, when we were very young, in school, when somebody punched us, what do? We punch back. I mean, we were boys or girls. Somebody punches, we just punch back lah, right? Apa ni? Punch back. Okay, then we get older. Somebody punches, what do we say? Huh? Don't friend you. We say, hey, apa ni? Why you punch me? You ask them, why you punch me? Right? Then you get older. Older means hopefully wiser lah, right? Get wiser. What do we have to say actually? When somebody do punch you, we learn to say, Haiza, I'm sure I have done something wrong to you. Tell me, what is it? You punch me because I know I've done something wrong to you. That is the first thing. Not go and find other people's fault. So if you ask me, I always ask them, did I do something wrong to you? Tell me. I'm sure there's something. Maybe I've offended you without knowing. Tell me. That's how I approach, right? But you think it's easy? No, you have to practice. And most of the time, people will say, are you sincere or not? Right? Then you start to feel, yalah, don't do lah because not sincere. That is the first mistake. Because sincere is not just overnight. I want to be sincere. I want to be sincere. Then you can be sincere. No. Sincere needs practice. Engagement to be sincere needs practice. Like now. You see me now. Right? I'm talking to you. Do you think I'm sincere or not? I don't know. Only you will judge me. I can't say, you know what? I'm very sincere, you know. Doesn't mean anything. Only you can feel it. What is that? That's the heart. The engagement of that, the dialogue that we are doing, how real it is only by practicing. So sincerity doesn't just come overnight. It needs to be done again and again, over again, right? Same like wants to give donation, cannot give because not sincere. We'll never give like that, right? We will never give because we say we are never sincere. But we have to learn to give more than we take, right? Thank you.
Wow. All right. Can we have the next question? Oh, at the back? Sorry. I cannot see. Raise your hands, raise your hands. Oh, this one.
Hello, Mr. Shafie. I think we've met just now. We've been talking just now. So, my question is, since you went to Indonesia, you said to me that you're from Indonesia, right? So, as a person that has been to Jakarta for 5 days, I really wonder, as a person in Jakarta, have you visited let's say the Istiqlal Mosque, Monas? Have you in Indonesia? Do you live there for a couple of months or years, or do you get to know about the culture? Like let's say, since you went to Argentina, you went to France, do you went back to your hometown, let's say in Indonesia, to look around, see the flowers, Yeah, have you visited cultural sites in Indonesia also, or like in other countries, or the whole of Indonesia? Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I'm Singaporean because some people are asking me, orang Singapura ke bukan ni? So I'm Singaporean, right? Full Singaporean, right? So my father is second generation here. My grandfather was from Java, Javanese, right? We came from a town called Pati. Pati is just about 1 hour drive from Semarang. Semarang is quite a big city in Indonesia, right? It's central Java. So I go back to Pati to look for my families of the past. Now, coming back again, if you ask me if I'm visiting around, I think most importantly on the context of today is we need to embrace culture, right? If we talk about Jakarta, what comes to our mind? I don't want to go there because macet. Macet means traffic, yeah? My Indonesian friends, when they come to Singapore, and then when people say, oh, Singapore, so good, everything's good, no macet in Singapore. But Singaporeans will say, wow, very bad. Our traffic in Singapore is very bad. So what does that mean? It's a lot of context. If we live in Jakarta, we need to embrace the culture, right? Say, for example, for myself, right? I always stand by motorbike. I always stand by. So let's say I go from point to point and I know I'll be late, so I'll take Gojek. Gojek, motorbike, so go point to point. No problem. So very easy. But if you want to stay in the car, you just go and do your reading, whatever you want to do. You embrace it. no stress. Don't make yourself to be stressful in Jakarta. But most of the time, as we know, if you know how to take the route, the time schedule, you normally get away with all those challenges, right? So the learning is get the right embrace of culture in us. If you ask me whether I've traveled along the different islands, I did in end of 2010. I knew that I will be posted to France. So I made a point to visit 85 stores in all the different cities within 5 days, right? I did it within the 5 days before 31st December 2010. So I said the last store, I want it to be in Jakarta, in the head office, in order to say Happy New Year to them. But I go to every store. And you know, one of the things I cannot forget, I went to one store. I arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning in one city called Singaraja. You know where is Singaraja? It is in Bali, but you have to travel another 3-4 hours from Bali to go on the mountain. There is one store, my store is there. When I arrived at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know how I was received? My employees were dressed up in their traditional costume, full. Traditional costume receiving me, full. And I arrived, I cried. I mean, I can just imagine they were waiting for me with their full costume. What for? Why? Because of the heart. Because they want to show back that we embrace them and they embrace back to us. So that's how I embrace and I learned from them. And true enough, they didn't know that I was about to leave at that time. By end of 2010, I was moving to France. So a week later, they knew that I was moving. So a lot of sedih lah kan, nangis-nangis. Kalau I remember again, I still cry because it's very sad to leave the people. Yeah, thank you.
All right, can we have the final question? Last 2 questions. Wow.
Hello, Mr. Shafie. Maybe start off, I would say thank you for giving me the opportunity to intern at Transmart Carrefour all those years ago when I was still in law school, back in 2017. Yeah.
Thank you.
So my question would be, what is your greatest success and your greatest failure as being a CEO, given that you've experienced a time in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and dealing not just the French, but also the Japanese?
So I think when people ask me about success, I think this is a good point, right? I always ask myself do we have our own definition of success? I think most of us would then come back to numbers or whatever that we want to do. But I think we need to really have our own definition. So for me, I have my personal success statement. There are 13 words, right? To me, right, success is a journey, right? It's a journey of choices that connect to a purpose in life. Now, there are 5 keywords other than success. Journey is a journey, success is a journey, and choices, right? Connect, purpose, life. These are 5 keywords, I believe. So if you ask me, what are those things? One of the greatest success that I have felt was to be able to grow during COVID. Look at this number called 23, number 23. So I was running as a CEO for Aeon. 23 of my team died during COVID. That was painful to me. You know why? You know, during COVID, most of my teams were saying, why are we supposed to be on the ground when everybody was at home? I had parents, spouses calling me and asking me, why are you allowing my son or my daughter to work while everybody is at home? So I said, we are frontliners. I'm myself on the ground. So I was the first few who got COVID as well, right? But that, if you say failure, it was maybe not failure, but it's something that I will never forget. 23 people died under my watch. And I put that as something that I will never forget. How about one of the greatest success? You see, during COVID in Malaysia, somehow, I mean, it's a very long story, but to cut the story short, we did very well. Aeon did very well. So well that I wanted to pay back to the employee. So in Malaysia, we have what we call the minimum wage, right? There is a minimum wage. So this minimum wage was not increased for quite a while. So I decided in 2022, right? The government of Malaysia has decided to increase the wage end of 2022. It was planned to be December 2022. And I decided and said, no, we can't wait. We'll do in January 2022. So we were the first company in Malaysia to increase our minimum wage. And that itself from 1,200 to 1,500 ringgit. I was very grateful that we were able to do that because our company was doing very well. And so I can't be not rewarding back my team. They were already risking their lives during COVID. We did well. We paid the highest bonus in the last 10 years in Aeon Malaysia. And they were happy. But for the minimum wage, I had to give something back. So Alhamdulillah, they got the first, the minimum wage increase, even though it was not mandatory yet by the government, but we were the first company to do that. So I was very grateful that we can do that. Thank you.
All right, I think we can have the final question.
Thanks so much, Mr. Shafie. My name is Ibnor. I enjoyed working under a French CEO back in Silicon Valley. I got scolded for working on the weekends. I think one of the questions which I have, it's not I doubt it will be an inspiring kind of question. It's more like a very practical question. I run my own company, and I think it was mentioned that as a chief strategic officer, you managed to turn around your company. I'm quite curious in that journey, in your implementation of the head, the hand, and the heart. What were some of the key, maybe strategic trusts or strategic initiatives that you took in Aeon to kind of like make that turnaround? Yeah, because it's not easy balancing a lot of moving parts. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There is a blessing in disguise during COVID. When we do transformation, normally on normal BAUs, it's very challenging to do transformation because most of the time, everybody is wanting to be the same, right? Everything wants to be as it is. But during COVID, it was a blessing in disguise because everybody do not know what's happening. So that becomes actually a blessing to me at that time. Now, but if you ask me, what are the things that we need to pay attention on transformation? The most important is about breaking the habits. And that is very challenging. And I always like to give this as an example. You see, we had always the chance to break our habits, but we don't realize it. For example, when we go to school or we go to work every day, do you realize that when we start to go out from our home, we take MRT or we take a car, we take a Grab or whatever, our mind does not work anymore. It went auto. Do you realize that? It just go auto. If let's say you drive, you just start the car and you know to go to Berita Harian. That's where I go. Every day the same route. Now, in transformation, we need to change our route. And it starts from small habits. So if you want to make transformation in your company, we need to change the small habits. What time we come to work? What are the wastages of time? Many companies do not realize that we come to work at 9. At 9, we have not started work, you know. We're still talking at the pantry, doing things that are sometimes not at all important. If you want to do engagement, right? Start off very early so that we can do something very productive. But we have to make that habits change. So as a leader in your own company, you need to have that. Now, I like to give you this perspective as an entrepreneur. And even all of us, right? If you say that, I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm a professional. I work as a lawyer or on the medical, whatever, or even a journalist, right? All of us should be able to think as an entrepreneur. Because this is very useful for us to break all our habits and routines. For example, learn to look at our pain points. Confront our pain points every day. Don't avoid the pain points. And if we start to look at our pain points every day, we will start to think of solutions. Because if we avoid the pain points, we are not giving the value creations in whatever that we do. Whatever. You can be anything. But we need to create our own solutions to the pain points that we are facing. Right? So I like to always give these very three simple things, right? To be a good entrepreneur doesn't need to be working as an entrepreneur. We can be entrepreneur by doing three simple things. Number one, learn to read. Number two, learn to write. And three, learn to count. Very simple. Reading means what? Reading means to read the context. The context of the pain points. Don't just look at the pain points, but the context. Many people lose the context. Look and learn to read the context. As an entrepreneur, very important. Look at the context. Read. Number two, don't do too much of analytics sometimes. Write. That means we write. Write means we do. We write it. For example, now, we are already more than 1 hour. How many of us write? You think we can remember all what we are discussing today? Impossible. If we don't write it, and writing is something that we need to do, implement it, test it, pilot it. Don't just talk and discuss. Do it. That is an entrepreneur. Doing it to see, does it work? If it's not, let's come back again. And number three, must know how to count. Right? We have to make profit. Because if you don't know how to count to make profit, how are we going to scale up the business? So we have to learn how to make profit. That means we have to always cut down expenses, cut down costs, but then always look at uniqueness, innovations through the pain points that we addressed earlier and bring the right solutions. Thank you. So read, write, and count. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato' Shafie. That concludes the Q&A segment. Let's give Dato' Shafie another round of applause.